Hello. In this video, I'd like to show how to draw an ogive graph. An ogive is a broken line graph of a cumulative frequency distribution or cumulative relative frequency distribution. We'll use the second one here. It is the sum of all previous relative frequencies up to the current point. To calculate cumulative relative frequencies, we need a frequency table, which shows the counts in each category of values. And then we need another column for relative frequency, which is the percentage of each frequency. The formula to calculate this is as shown. Let's get started by looking at an example. This table shows the distribution of statistics exam marks in a class. The frequencies are already filled out, so we'll need to create a relative frequency column next. Let's add another column, relative frequency, to our existing table. The frequency in the first class is 1. Applying the formula, 1 is divided by the total 40, and then multiplied by 100 is 2.5%. Next, 4 is divided by 40 multiplied by 100 to get 10.0%. We use the same process to get all the other relative frequencies. An important point to note here is that you need to get the total relative frequency to exactly 100%. and not 99.9% or 100.1%. In order to do this, you will have to adjust the number of decimal places for some cases. For this problem, 1 decimal place worked out perfectly for us. Since we already have 3 columns, let's extend the existing table to the last column. To draw an ogive, we need one additional lower class than existing classes, strictly speaking, since ogives must start from 0. Let's insert a under 30 row to be clear. On an ogive, cumulative frequencies are plotted against class upper limit, so ignore the lower limit values. Fill in 0 frequency and 0% for the under 30 row. Then we carry the first entry 0%, as there is no one who has an exam score of under 30 points. Please note that an ogive must start with 0%. Next, since the value in the second line should be the sum of all previous relative frequencies up to the current point, 0% plus 2.5% equals 2.5%. The third line should be 0% plus 2.5% plus 10.0% equals 12.5%, and so on. However, it takes too much time to calculate in this manner. Instead of adding in this manner, we can just add the values diagonally, as the last column is the previous cumulative value. So the next entry should be the previous cumulative value 12.5% plus 17.5% to get 30.0%. Next, we use the previous cumulative value of 30.0% plus 27.5% to get 57.5%, and so on. We repeat this process to get a total of 100%. Again, please make sure that the last cumulative value is exactly 100%. To reiterate, an ogive must start with 0% and always end up with 100%. Now we have completed the table. Then let's draw an ogive based on the last column of the table. For the y-axis, it starts with 0% and goes all the way to 100% for every case. For the x-axis, we use the upper limit of each class. Please note that each scale value means less than the value. For example, 50 means less than 50 points. First, plot 1 point, 0% on the x-axis. When no one has exam score of under 30 points, please make sure to plot the point on the 30 grid line. Secondly, plot 2.5% for less than 40 points. Again, make sure to plot the point on the 40 grid line. Some of you may think to plot off the line because of the less than wording being used. However, each grid line already indicates less than value. Once you have 2 points, connect those with the straight line. Please use a ruler. The third point is 12.5% on the grid line of 50. And connect the 2 points. On the 60 grid line, plot 30% and we connect the 2 points again. We continue the same way to complete the graph. Please make sure the last point is always 100%. Finally, we have complete the ogive graph. Now try to answer the questions based on our graph. Since the first question says lower than 75 points, the position must be halfway between the 70 and 80 grid lines on the x-axis. Draw a straight dashed line starting from the midpoint of 70 and 80 until you hit the main ogive graph. Make sure this dashed line is not tilted in any way. It must be exactly halfway and not closer to either grid lines. Then draw the other dashed line straight to read the percentage. From this graph, it is approximately 64%. Let's consider another question. Now this time it says 35%. Again, draw a dashed line starting with the y-axis, halfway between 30 and 40, until you reach the main graph. After reaching the main graph, then draw a straight dashed line toward the x-axis to read the exam score. We can read it approximately 62 points. I hope you are getting more comfortable with drawing an ogive graph. Please comment if you have any questions or topics that you'd like to see. Thank you for watching. See you again.